episode 4 of Recruit Spotlight. I'm your host, Wac, joined as always by Will and Jackson. Before we get started, though, I kind of want to take being in sports, we're kind of, it's a very fun job to have, right? And so, it's on kind of times like these when we know, with everything going on in the world right now, especially with Russia and Ukraine. It's almost hard to kind of jump on and kind of be happy to talk sports and where are these kids going and stuff like that. But that is our job. And so, as much as it kind of pains us about what's going on in this world, we do have a job to do. So, we may sound happy when we're talking, but I know for all of us about, especially with what's going on in the world, our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Ukraine right now. With that being said, I do want to get to our show right now, and as always, I like to start the show by checking in with my co-hosts. So, Will, how are you doing?
All things considered, doing pretty well. I got a chance to go to the Shock Doctor Legends Showcase last week, caught up with a bunch of guys, and got to meet a whole lot of new talent.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be talking about that on today's show. Jackson, how about you? How are you doing?
Doing good with all things going on right now in the world. It's good to say that at least we're doing good here. Recruitment's picking back up. It's going good. We're seeing a lot more guys pick up a lot more offers. For example, you got Reed McKeska picked up 30 total offers this week, so recruitment's picking back up.
And I know you were talking about him trying to reach that 30 kind of team threshold, and he did indeed reach it. With all the like you said, with all things considered, let's move on to our first segment of the show, and that's just news around the state of Texas. Will, I know you were at the 7-on-7. You just mentioned it, so talk to us about the 7-on-7. How did it go? Maybe some of the athletes that stood out to you during this past weekend.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. We had a lot of great Houston area teams. We had Mike West's Texas Stars. We had the Dixons with South Texas Elite. Mike Evans 7-on-7. I mean, the talent out of the greater Houston area is just incredible. Classes 23 through 25. Really looking at that 25 class right now. You're talking about Jonah Williams from Galveston Ball. We talked about him a few weeks ago. Dion DeBlanc from Eisenhower. This class is going to be special. And we saw some of these Houston area teams really stick it to the California teams. When we get to our under-the-radar recruit a little bit later on, I'll talk about that more. But just great stuff. And we're seeing recruits in the top 20, some even the top in Texas, still playing 7-on-7. And they've got all the offers in the world because these guys want to compete every single day of the year.
Will, bringing up the Texas versus California debate once again. I think that the debate never leaves this kind of the realm of high school football. I have some other questions I want to ask Will about some things you mentioned, but before we get to that, Jackson, I want to turn it over to you. Any news across the state of Texas that you've heard about that you want to kind of mention right now before we jump it back to Will?
I mean, like I said earlier, Reed McKeska, he's been blowing up the past month. He's picked up 30 total offers now. He's going to get many more to come. Another big thing that's happening in Texas high school football, we're seeing guys leave for other coaching jobs. You're seeing Katie Paetow coach Goat. He's leaving to go to Pearland, and then you see Michael Wall leaving Willis, and that's a big job opening with a guy like 2024 quarterback DJ Lagway Jr., top quarterback in the state, if not the country, in his class, with no coach now. So lots of things happening in high school football this week.
Oh, and you bring up Katie Paetow, but along those lines, the runner-up in against them, College Station, also lost their head coach. I think they're going to have, if it's not official yet, I can't remember. So, I apologize to the audience out there, but I think that's going to be an internal hire, is what it sounds like. If there's one that was internal. Will, do you know? Has there been a head coaching hire for that one yet?
I'm pretty sure that College Station is internal, and I don't think they've named anyone yet. And from what I've heard, is Paetow is not going to go that route.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one particularly myself, but that could very well be. That one's going to be interesting, right? Because Katie Paetow is an up and coming program. as we know, going from 5A to 6A, state champions. I say upcoming, even though they're state champions, but they're going to be in 6A now, and so it's really going to be an interesting job opportunity, and that's going to be a great opportunity to build some recruits right there. Speaking of building recruits, and you had something you'd mentioned before the show, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But speaking of building recruits, what are some things right now? And I want to ask both of you this. And so Jackson, I'll start with you on this one. What are some things right now that recruits should be doing to kind of get their name out there? Right, it's not the season; they're not going to be able to put out these huddle highlights anymore. Of their game film. I mean, they still can, but it's not current, right? So, what are some things that recruits should be doing? Whether it's maybe seniors that haven't gotten signed yet, or juniors and below that are looking for those offers. Jackson, I'll start with you. Like I said.
I think for if we're looking at 2025 to 2023 classes, go to these camps, go to these junior days. Focus on the schools that you've already been talking to, because those are the schools most likely you go to their camps, you get that exposure, you might get that offer. You don't always want to go to an Alabama because there's going to be tons of people at a school like Alabama. For the seniors, there's a draft or there's a college combine coming up in Houston, March 26th. There's going to be some college coaches there. 24/7 is going to be there. I will be there myself. Doing things like that to even just up your chances of getting a late offer, getting maybe even a preferred walk-on that eventually in time could get you that offer. So going to these camps, going to junior days, also these 7-on-7 tournaments. You have some of the top recruits in the country playing in these 7-on-7 tournaments, and going to one of these and having a good weekend could end up starting to get you noticed.
Will, I'll turn it over to you now. What, in your opinion, what are some things these recruits can be doing right now?
Yeah, I don't really think there's a formula. I think we see a lot on social media of ex-coaches and other trainers saying, coaches never look at 7-on-7 tape and just go run track or just go play another sport. I don't think it's uniform for everyone. There are guys that I've seen on 7-on-7 that have just gotten their name out there. Maybe the coaches didn't look at the film, but they got their name out there. They got on people's radars. That's always a great option. I think you can do more than one of these things. We see multi-sport athletes, get offers in Chris Marshall, for example. So I don't think this is, an answer that you can give for everyone. But yeah, keep going to those camps. Keep going to as much as you can because the offers will come.
Yeah, I don't think there's one tried and true formula, but I will say if you're not going to be a multi-sport athlete, you got to do something during the off season, right? Just don't just go in the weight room and lift weights and expect to get better, right? You got to go to these camps, and continue to build your craft if you're not going to be a multi-sport athlete. Moving on, Will, I know you had mentioned before the show started that there is some, I guess this is a good little bow to put on the news across Texas, is that, one of the great things about social media these days is these athletes are able to communicate with each other more than ever before. And you said there was an interesting kind of Twitter, kind of maybe not exchange, but there was an interesting tweet that went out. Go ahead and talk to us about that.
Yeah, Ruben Owens put on a show this past weekend for Texas Stars at Legends Showcase, and Jonah Wilson out of Decaney took note of that, tweeted at him, and tweeted at a couple other guys, Jonte Cook, also one of the top recruits in Texas, and Arch Manning. And he's, saying that all these guys should get together. So that is a really, interesting story. If you could get all four of those guys on the same team, right there, we're probably looking at either Texas or LSU. It seems like those are the only offers those guys share. Ohio State is also offered for Jonah Wilson, and I believe both for Jonte and Ruben Owens. As we know with Arch, not a lot of information being let out, but out of those offers and seeing what those guys have, I think the Longhorns or the Tigers may have something right here.
Jackson, let me get your input on this before we move on to your interview for this week. What do you think about this kind of new age of, with the social media and everything, where athletes are able to communicate with one another better than before? Do you think that has an impact on recruiting and where some people might go, and if they're kind of teaming up to go to a school together?
I mean, you saw it this year in the Houston area. You saw Bobby Taylor, Donovan Green, PJ Williams, all three of them committed in February after the bowl game last year to A&M, and they started texting those guys, building relationships with kids in the state, but also across the country. And they built this monster #1 class ever for class of 2022. And you're starting to see that go throughout recruiting now. You want to get that guy who's going to help you recruit some of these high talented players. You'll definitely see that out of kids like Jonte Cook and Ruben Owens. They're going to want to play together. Now, I will say, I don't think Jonte Cook is going to go to the University of Texas at the end of the day, but the University of Texas has put themselves in a good spot with a lot of these kids.
Very interesting, all things considered, especially with Texas's record. I know me and Will are a little more pro Texas than you are, Jackson. And if you just raise up a little bit, I think the audience can see why right there with that Texas A&M sweater there. But that's going to do it for our kind of just kind of news around the state, if you will, for this week. And now I'll turn it over to Jackson, who's got an interview for us this week.
So we've got an interview with Paetow state champion, class of 2023 linebacker, co-defensive MVP, Damian Sanford. Damian had a huge year this year. He's been offered from Marshall, Prairie View A&M, SMU, UTSA, Utah State, North Texas, Duke, Tulsa, Tulane, and Vanderbilt. It's going to be a really great interview with a great kid.
All right, well, let's go to that right now.
Thanks, guys. I'm now joined by a special guest, class of 2023 linebacker, state champion, co-defensive MVP from Paetow High School, Damian Sanford. Damian, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good, man. We're excited to have you on the show. We're going to jump right into it here. You won the state championship this year as a junior. You finished the year with 83 tackles, 13 sacks, an interception, forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown. How do you feel this season went for you after everything that went down?
I feel like the season went great for me. I did better this year than I did last year. All that work in the offseason paid off for this year and winning state championship. And getting co-defensive MVP was really a shock for me. But I feel like I deserved that because I did put a lot of work in the offseason and worked on my crafts and practice every day to get where I am right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, you had a really impressive junior campaign this year, and you caught a lot of attention from a lot of D1 programs. You got offered by Marshall, Prairie View A&M, SMU, UTSA, Utah State, North Texas, Duke, Tulsa, Tulane, Vanderbilt. What has the recruiting process been like for you now that you had a big season? You're starting to get the ball rolling in the recruiting process.
The recruiting process has been it's going great right now. I'm new to the recruiting process, so everything is like exciting for me, getting all these looks and offers and stuff. And it has really affected my family though, like going on visits and stuff, because my mom has to miss out on a couple of things, like going to see family or going to hang out with people and going out to party. But our recruiting process has been going good so far with getting to know all the coaches and going to visits and going to the practices and see how the facility is and the campus is. And that's been really great so far.
So with recruiting picking back up now, what are some junior day camps that you might be going to, or some unofficial visits that you want to go on to some schools, whether they've offered you yet or they have offered you already?
Well, so now Florida State wants me to go on their practice and go on the campus and fill out the campus. And Kansas State also wants me to go on a visit so I can meet the coaches. And Vanderbilt also wants me to go on campus and feel for the staff and see all the coaches and get to meeting the coaches. And that's about it.
So you've got these visits planned, but obviously coaches have been talking to you so far. What are some coaches that for you have already built that good connection with you that maybe talk to you every day or show you a lot of love?
I would say Coach Bauer. Coach Bauer, he shows me a lot of love every day. He texts me here and there, and I feel like he's the most showing me love right now.
So obviously, last year y'all were in 5A, now making the jump up to 6A. What's y'all's mentality now? You're moving into the district with Katie Taylor, with all these other, with all basically all the Katie schools now. What is y'all's mentality going into last year? Y'all winning state, now you're bumping up to 6A.
Our mentality is we just got to stay strong. We can't get complacent with everything. And I know we have our head coach leaving, and with that, I know we can't worry too much about that. And we got to let the coaches handle all that situation. But we're just going to have to build leaders on our team, get leaders on our team to help our team be successful.
So now you're going into the off season. You're going to be going into your senior year. What are some things that you're going to be doing from now up until those first kind of 2-a-day practices to kind of improve your game, up your game for next year?
For next year, I'm really going to be working on my pass rushing skills and some moves for next year, because I know 6A is a little better, and I know coaches are working on the offensive line like way better in 6A. And I'm working on getting my weight up, because I know I'm a little undersized right now. So I'm working in this offseason. I'm getting my weight up to at least 220, so I can be a good fit, good size going against the 300-pound lineman, 6'6" lineman.
Yeah, they've got some big boys in 6A. It'll be an interesting. I think y'all are going to be able to shock a lot of people that from the normal 5A jumping up to 6A this year. So with NIL kind of becoming a bigger deal in college football now, and also you see it starting to change things in recruitment as well. What is one brand that, like, if you had the choice once you get to college, what is one brand that you'd want to have an NIL deal with?
I would say Nike. Nike's been out there. They have good materials and good sportswear that I would love to have. Okay.
I like it. I'm an Aggie fan, so I like 3-stripe left, but I got Nikes on that now. So,
yeah.
So you have an interesting defense this year. You've got a co-star at linebacker with you, and Alex Kilgore. What is y'all's relationship on the field, and how are y'all able to? How is y'all's chemistry maybe off the field also helped y'all on the field when playing together?
Well, me and Alex, we're really close off the field, but when it gets to like football, we're like locked in. Like everything's locked in. We're so much like thinking about what we're gonna do, thinking about how we're gonna run the defense, thinking about our players. We're just locked in. We're not really playing around, because I know outside of football, we're always playing around, goofing around, and having fun like that. But when it gets to playing football, like in the game, just more serious, and we're like really not talking to each other as much. But that's when like it really gets locked in, and we win games like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, having two great linebackers is a great way to win football games. Defense wins championships, as they say. So next year for y'all are moving up to 6A. What is a game that y'all will have on your schedule that you are going to be circling and like, this is the one I want more than anyone else?
We always been talking about Katie, because Katie's always been the ones that are be talking and running their mouth about they want to play us, so we 5A, this and that. But Katie's the number one right now. Okay.
I'm sure that'll be a great matchup next year. So everyone, this has been Jackson DePasquale with the VYPE Recruit Spotlight with linebacker Damian George. Damian is set to have a big senior season, and make sure you go out to the field and check him out this year.
Once again, that was our interview with Katie Paetow, linebacker Damien Sanford. Interested to see what he does his senior year. Like I said, especially moving up to 6A and with a new coach. Definitely keep an eye out on him as he moves into his senior year and commits eventually somewhere. So lots of offers on the table for him. So let's move on to our segment where there might not be a lot of offers for these athletes so far, and that's why we want to cover them. That's our Under the Radar segment. It's where we give you some athletes that may be under the radar, might only have 1 or 2 offers or none at all, and really talking to you why they should be considered for recruitment from these colleges. So let's go, Will. Let's start with you this week. Give us that one under the radar athlete that people should be paying attention to.
Yeah, for the first time in the series, I'm going with a quarterback. And I've been saying Texas Stars the entire episode. But once again, they just keep sending guys out there that have the talent and aren't getting the love. This time it's Denim Johnson out of CE King, quarterback, class of 23. He didn't get a chance to play all that much last year, but we believe that he will in the upcoming season. He's got great pocket presence. He's got a big arm. He's not that large, but he makes up for it with that arm. He's got an offer from Southwestern right now, and boy, I didn't get a chance to see it, but he went toe-to-toe with Malachi Nelson, who was one of the top players in the country. That was Texas Stars versus California Stars. They had Mateo Ugalele in that team, but Texas Stars went out there with Denim Johnson, with Andrew T. Marsh, with Ruben Owens, Carter Holmes. I mean, this roster right here, led by a great quarterback, is just filled with under-the-radar recruits.
Now, did I hear you right? You said his first name is Denim?
Denim.
I mean, look.
Denim.
Look,
just like the jeans.
Look, all I'm saying is if this kid goes somewhere, that's an automatic NIL deal, right? Whether it's with a major brand jean company or just like a local jean company, right? That's automatic NIL right there, if you're asking me. So kid's at least got one NIL deal, in my opinion, once he heads to college. Jackson, let's turn it over to you now. Who is your under the radar athlete for this week?
My under the radar athlete this week is close to home for me. He's actually Mabry Matoyer, class of 2024 quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks in the state. It's his cousin, Cross Tucker. Cross has been a starter on the offensive line for the Woodlands High School for 2 years now. Cross is a 6'3", 320-pound offensive lineman. He's great inside the box, can pull, kick out, has the speed to get around the edge and lead block. He's just a kid that hasn't really gotten that D1 attention. Maybe the size has become a factor. He went on a little unofficial visit to SFA last week, but he's definitely a kid I think that should be getting some looks from schools like Sam Houston, Southwestern. Somewhere should pick up this kid because he's a nasty offensive lineman up front, and he can do pretty much anything.
Those are our under-the-radar athletes of the week. If you are an under-the-radar athlete, or if you know of an under-the-radar athlete, let us know in the comments. Send us a DM through Instagram or Twitter. Let us know, and we will cover these athletes for you on this show right here. Hey, if you know some recruiting news across Texas that you want us to cover as well, let us know. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to get that news across to everyone. So let us know in the comments. Let us know in the DMs. Shoot us email, info@VYPEmedia.com, and we will get you that news to you one way or another. That's going to be it for our show this week. As always, I like to close the show by giving Will and Jackson the chance to shout out anyone or anything they want. So, Will, give us a little shout out, will you?
Yeah, shout out to Keyshawn Robinson from West Orange Stark. Went out of his way to greet me last weekend at Legend Showcase. Shout out to Coach Deuce Dixon from South Texas Elite. And shout out to the head honchos at VYPE Media for finally putting a Straight Jesuit athlete on a magazine cover.
That's right. We finally got one on the cover. Straight Jesuit, as we know, were state semifinalists last year in baseball. Looking to hopefully make that little mac and cheese run, the Vavita mac and cheese run again. We'll see.
Rally Mac.
That's right. Rally Mac, baby. Jackson, give us a little shout out, will you?
I'm going to shout out Keanu Dawes from Stratford basketball. He came on an Instagram Live with me last night. Really great conversation with a great guy. Stratford has a big game this week, tomorrow, against Maid Creek. Be sure to go to that game. It's sure to be one of the best games in the city.
That's right. Basketball season is just on fire right now in the middle of playoffs. The girls basketball, you got the regional semis and finals coming up this weekend. And then next weekend, I believe it's the men's turn. And, of course, next weekend is, of course, UIL State for girls. So lots of good stuff. My brother, unfortunately, lost. He's the head coach of Three Rivers, a 2A school. And they unfortunately lost in the regional quarters to Mason. So great season to you, Jacob, Coach Wac, as they call him. That's going to do it. That's my shout-out. That's going to be my shout-out, right? That's going to be my brother. That's the first time they've been to the third round in like 20 years for that school. So congratulations to him on a successful season. Of course, would love to have had him win, but hey, great nonetheless. So until next week, I'm Wac. That's Will and Jackson, and this has been the Recruit Spotlight.